Hello and welcome back to AfaqIelts Easy Self-Study Pack. This is the 5th video in the listening section. In the first 4 videos, we dealt with the basic listening techniques. From now on, we shall work on different question types that you might come across in the listening test. There is a wide range of question types in the IELTS listening part. We will categorize the question types and give you examples and tips in order to help you to answer them more conveniently. Generally speaking, there are 2 main types of questions. The first type is gap filling or completion tasks, such as notes, summary, diagrams, tables, flowcharts, and so on. And the other one, the second one, is the matching type. In this video, we shall start with different types of gap-filling questions. And the first one we shall work on is diagrams. In diagrams, you are given a tool, an instrument, or a gadget, and then you are asked to label the different parts of the item on the picture. Some useful language of naming things would help you to do better in this part of the test. When we are trying to name something, we often use words or expressions such as known as, called, named, considered as, or referred to. Such phrases are used to provide the name of a thing or say what something is called. For instance, in the audio, you might hear a sentence like, "This part is known as the valve." There's a whole lot of other useful language, such as words and phrases to describe things, such as words of size, big, small, tiny, or words for shapes, such as square, cubic, spherical, and so on, and words for direction, like diagonal, horizontal, vertical, and so on. And there are also words for naming what something is made of: leather, metal, glass, or even glass-like. These words will help you to find the part of the diagram which you are describing. Listen to this example. This tiny spherical glass object that is on top of the machine is called the globe. Nothing works better than an example, so let's work on one here.
Now listen and answer questions 35 to 40.
If its use in trousers was a major factor in establishing the zip as a fashion icon, despite its occasional tendency to trap parts of the wearer's anatomy, another major breakthrough came with the separable zip, the kind that opens at both ends. This type, still widely used in a range of items from jackets to tents, is shown in the diagram. Let's look first at the right-hand side of the illustration, at the material attached to the item of clothing, the bag, or whatever. This is the tape, which is usually made of fairly tough fabric. At the end of that, there's what is known as the heat seal patch, the cotton and nylon laminated material used to reinforce the tape. Now, alongside the heat seal patch is a small piece of metal, used only on a separating zip, whose function is to enable the 2 halves of the zip to join. This is known as the pin. Opposite that, on the other half of the zip in the diagram, is a device which correctly aligns the pin.
Here, you need the names of various parts of a zipper. Do not forget that. Here are some names written in the diagram which will help you locate the other parts. In the listening, you sometimes hear words that help you locate different parts of the diagram. For example, the phrase right-hand side tells you that you need to look at the right of the illustration. It limits the possible answers. Also, in the same sentence, you hear the word tape, which is a key word in the illustration. This word is followed by the next keyword, heat seal patch. Therefore, the other words coming up will carry the answer to questions 35. As you hear, the word alongside will guide you to the bottom of the illustration, and the word known as signals that the answer is there. So the answer is pin for the question. If you heard this sentence, this is known as the pin. Opposite that, on the other half of, and it goes on. The next word gives you the location referring to the answer of question 36. The word opposite sends you to the side where number 36 is.
This is known as the pin. Opposite that, on the other half of the zip in the diagram, is a device which correctly aligns the pin. The box, as it's called, begins the joining of the zip halves. Running up the inside edge of each half are dozens, possibly hundreds of metal teeth.
If you remember that part with question 35, you heard this. It's known as, or this is known as, the pin. Opposite that, on the other half of the zip in the diagram, is a device which correctly aligns the pin. And here it gives you the word. Again, you are looking for a name, and the phrase as it's called would give you that. So the answer is box.
The box, as it's called, begins the joining of the zip halves. Running up the inside edge of each half are dozens, possibly hundreds of metal teeth, each of which has a small hook and an equally tiny hollow.
Well, let's get on with the next question. Now would be question number 37. Again, there's a phrase to guide you to the part of the illustration where the answer is. Running up the inside edge helps you to go to number 37 as it is up the inside edge. Again, the phrase dozens, possibly hundreds of, helps you to find the answer as the illustration points at some pieces. And the answer is teeth. You remember, as in the audio you hear, joining of the zip halves running up the inside edge of each half are dozens, possibly hundreds of metal teeth, each of which has a small hook, and then the thing goes on.
Each of which has a small hook and an equally tiny hollow. Moving up and down the teeth to open and close the zip is a piece of metal called the slider. This is operated by means of a pull tab, so called because, logically enough, the wearer or user pulls it in one direction or the other.
Well, again, in the next sentence, you hear the word slider. Yes, it's a key word from the diagram. The phrase, this is operated by, helps you to find the answer. Also, the phrase up and down helps you to know that the answer is there, as the word pull tab. If you pay attention to the part with the audio, you remember it just said that moving up and down the teeth to open and close the zip. So this is operated by means of a pull tab. So that's the answer.
To prevent the slider coming off the teeth at the other end, there is a top stop on both sides of the zip.
The word at the other end signals the place of the last blank space, the last gap. And the answer is top stop. If you remember, the sentence here said, to prevent the slider coming off the teeth at the other end, there is a top stop on both sides of the zip. So, in this way, we get on with the first example. Another type of gap-filling questions that you have to deal with is maps. In these questions, you're given a map, and the speaker will give you some information about it. Here again, the most important thing is the language of the maps. There are two main points. First, the language of giving directions that include go straight ahead, turn left, turn right, go past, and so on. And the second point is the language of showing locations, including words like on the street or in the street, at the corner of, next to the bar, after the mall, and as such. Let's look at an example and try to do this test. This is a dialogue between a clerk at Clark's bike and the customer. From the map, you can see the different blank spaces that you have to fill in. As we said, the words that are on the illustration, for instance, Oak Street, Woods Road, Park, and the police station are your keywords. So, whenever you hear one of them, you must find it on the map. Here, the point is that there are numbers to each item on the map. So, I must remind you of the order of the answers. Let's hear the audio first.
Now listen and answer questions 8 to 10.
So if I want to have a look at the bikes, how do I find you? I live near the university, by the way.
Right. First you take Woods Road as far as the main police station.
I know it. It's right next to the park.
Yes, that's it. And after the police station, there's a turning to the right called Oak Street.
At the big supermarket?
No, it's before then. It's actually between the police station and a garage on the other side.
The first speaker gave you the words Woods Road and main police station, which are both to the north of the map. Besides, the other speaker said the police station was next to the park, which is again on the map. These keywords give you the clue where on the map you are. The next sentence guides you to Oak Street by turning right. As you can see, number 8 is on this street. Here, the phrase on the other side is your main clue. It says that the street is between the police station and a garage. On the other side.
Okay.
So, you go down Oak Street until you reach the health centre on the right. If you get to a pub called the Maple Leaf, you've gone too far. All right?
Yes, I've got that.
As the audio continues, it has a sentence, opposite the health center, there is a pharmacy. You can see the pharmacy. On the opposite side, you have number 9. That's it. It is the health center.
Now, opposite the health centre, there's a pharmacy, and we're just behind that.
Okay, fine. I'll try to call over sometime tomorrow.
Great. See you then.
Bye.
The next sentence says, and we're just behind that. This means they're behind the pharmacy. The speaker was looking for the Clarks. So, the answers for number 8, garage, number 9, health center, and number 10, Clark cycle hire. So, these were the answers you were looking for. Sometimes this will change slightly and you will be given a floor plan of an office or the plan of a small area like a park or a campsite. Let's listen to an example about AfaqIelts, and remember that you can only use 2 words to fill in the blanks. First, look at the map and listen to the audio to answer questions 1 to 5. Now, listen to the part connected with number 1.
As you drive up the driveway, you will immediately arrive in the parking area. You will see to your left the farmhouse where the farmer lives as you drive up, and directly to the left of the parking area is the main shed. There are a number of smaller sheds located around the main shed which are not currently labelled on the map.
In the first sentence, you hear the words driveway and parking area which are on the map. Now, you know where you are. Then it tells you more about the farm and the places you can see on the map.
In the northwest corner of the farm is a pasture area, which is a wide grassy expanse. It provides rich organic grass for our cows and, along with other types of feed, gives us our organic status and key selling point.
This sentence takes you to the area where question 1 is. In the northwest corner of the farm, there is a pasture area, which is a wide grassy expanse. So, pasture area, the first answer. Now, let's listen to the part with the answer to number 2.
From the parking area, you go east through the milk house, which is used daily, and then into the barn. This is where the cows are often sheltered. On the other side of the barn is the manure storage.
After some explanation about the area of number 1, the speaker talks about the parking area again, which was a keyword from the map. So, you move your eyes there and follow her instructions. As it goes like, from the parking area, you go east through the milk house, which is used daily, and then into the barn. So, the answer for number 2, the milk house. The speaker goes further to the east and gives you the clue about another part of the farm, which is labeled again on the map. The speaker then moves to the north and gives you the answer to number 3.
To the north, you will find the calf hutches, which are located just beyond the maternity pens.
You listen to the part. Now, what was it there? To the north, you will find the calf hutches, which are located just behind the maternity pens.
Only 30% of our cows are used for breeding. In the bottom left corner of the barn is the loading chute.
The speaker then gives you the word loading chute, which is seen in the south. It signals that you must look at that area, south. Now listen again to the part about this place and check your answer.
To the south are 2 circular areas, one of which is the feed storage and the other the dead stock area. We hope you will enjoy looking around our farm and learning about how we manage our cows.
Yeah, you heard it. The speaker just said, to the south are 2 circular areas, one of which is the food storage and the other the dead stock area. So which one is the answer? Food storage. Very similar to these types, we have flowcharts. They show the way something works or a procedure. Here we look at the key language of such questions and listening audios. There are mainly words of sequence which can help you. These words include first, second, then, next, before, after, finally, after that, and as such. Let's listen to another example and do the test for this type of question.
You will hear a tutor and 2 students discussing the best ways to study. Listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 25.
Let's review the answers one by one. Now, listen and answer number 21.
Well, how are you both settling in?
Fine.
Yes, no problems. So far, anyway.
Good. Remember that as your personal tutor, I'm here to help you if you do have any difficulties. Now, as you know, lectures start on Monday, so I thought we'd look at a few ways of making the most of them, especially in terms of the notes you take. Let's begin by thinking about what you can do before you even go to the lecture. Any ideas?
Make sure you're up to date with all the background reading, so you know plenty about the subject already.
The tutor asks what you can do before you even go to the lecture. Karina replies, make sure you're up to date with all the background reading. So the answer to this one was background reading. Next, you will hear the part in which the answer of number 22 could be found.
Yes, that's essential. The lecturer will assume you have that knowledge. Anything else, Carlos?
Well, check what the topic's going to be. Of the lecture, that is.
I'd go a bit further than that and consider what the content may be. Then you could ask yourself some questions that you want answering and listen out for the relevant information during the lecture.
Okay.
The prompt is, check what the topic's going to be. And then it goes on and then mentions of the lecture, but the topic is not the answer. The tutor's advice is to consider what the content may be. So the answer is content. Number 23. Here, listen and check your answer to this section, question number 23.
Now that brings us to the lecture itself and the actual business of writing notes. But there is a lot to deal with there, so we'll come back to that later. What I'd like to do for the moment is continue with the process of note-taking and move on to the next stage. Any suggestions for what that might be?
When the lecture is over, you mean?
Yes, once you're able to sit down somewhere quiet with your notes.
Read them?
More than that, you need to make sure they'll still make sense to you weeks, months later.
Edit them?
Yes, that's what's needed. It's well worth spending a few minutes on it. Any missing words, anything difficult to read, things you didn't have time to jot down, now is the time to do so, while everything's still fresh in your mind.
In the audio you have, of course, the tutor asks about the next stage. And Karina checks this means when the lecture is over. However, the word read them is not the answer, as the tutor says more than that. So Karina says edit them, to which the tutor again says yes. So edit them, and the tutor mentions yes. So the answer would be edit or edit notes. Now let's do the same with question number 24.
Right. And after that, when's the best time to revise them?
When do you think, Carlos?
I'd say just before the next lecture, in the same subject.
Precisely. That's a vital time to look at them again, for obvious reasons.
Again, Karina asks, when's the best time to revise them? And Carlos answers back, just before the next lecture. And you heard that the tutor confirms this by saying precisely. So this is the key word, as you mentioned. So the answer would be what Carlos mentioned, the next lecture for number 24. And finally, number 25, you will listen to the piece and we will check it together.
But it's definitely not the only time. When should you revise them again?
A month later, maybe?
Sooner, and much more often than that. I'd recommend you look at them again once a week. That's why it's so important they're complete and easy to follow.
As you heard, the tutor says it's definitely not the only time, and then asks, when should you revise them again? Karina's answer, as you heard, a month later, is not correct because the tutor corrects Karina and recommends once a week. So the answer would be week, not a month later, not month. So once a week. So as you heard, for number 21, the answer was background reading or reading. Number 22, content. Number 23, edit or edit notes. And number 24, next lecture. And finally, for the last question, your answer was weak. Thank you. This was the first video about gap-filling questions. In the next video, I will continue giving information about some other types of gap-filling questions and would provide examples on how you can deal with those types of questions. See you in the next video.